Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Quinn.
Hello everyone, I'm Joan Quinn and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled are fashion designer Valerj Pobega and actor Yuval David. Fashion designer, artist, model Valerj Pobega was born and raised in Alghero, Italy. As a teenager, she moved to Rome and Milan, where she pursued a career in modeling. You were always different when you were modeling. You didn't want to look like the girls on the runway. How were you different?
I always tried to dress myself in a different way, and even if other models were going one direction, I will go opposite.
On the runway?
No, not on the runway, but even, sometimes I will style myself differently.
So, and how did you do that? Did you make your own clothes? Did you accessorize their clothes?
I did. Since I'm very young, I started sewing for my dolls first and for myself later.
So how did you learn to sew?
I'm pretty much self-taught. My mom teach me a little bit, but pretty much I'm self-taught. I read a lot of books and
you
I
can
like
do
to
it?
learn.
You can do it like that?
I think it's just inside of me. I kind of get it, so I guess yes.
When you were making different clothes for yourself, did the designers want you to help them?
Sometimes they ask for my opinion. They could see there was something beyond just the fact, of the beauty of being a model. But they could see I have my own sense of style, and that's how I started actually my line, because I started helping photographers, styling some shoots, and then little by little,
you started
where
that
I am
way.
today. Yeah.
But did you ever work for a designer?
I did, but kind of freelance. I
see.
always kind of had my own line, but I also work, freelance for other designers sometimes.
When you were going to school and your mother taught you, did she make your clothes for you?
My mom, sometimes, but she's also, she loves to shop, and she was very inspiring. When I was a kid, I used to watch her, once
the way she would look at things.
Up, like these beautiful Yves Saint Laurent coats, and she has very amazing taste. I think that influenced me a lot.
Was there any kind of design or artist in your family that led you to be so artistic?
Actually, my mom, she's a painter.
Oh, she is.
And with my dad, they both have like a creative studio in Sardinia where they did sculptures with ceramics and paintings. So I basically grew up in a very creative environment.
Oh, so when you got the material, like this piece behind you, did you paint that yourself?
I did.
Oh, so you had that artistry in you. Before we talk about what you're doing in this line, when you said you started your own line, what was it, KG363?
Yes.
What was that?
I was still living in Milan, and it was like a ready-to-wear line, and it was sold in the finest boutiques.
And what kind? What did it look like?
Just women's wear, ready-to-wear. So
Separates?
it would be pants, separate skirts, T-shirts, but with my own take on it.
Did you buy the fabrics?
I did. I buy the fabrics.
And what kind of fabrics were you using then?
I pretty much always worked back then cotton and silk. I always liked this kind of fabrics. But back then, I didn't put really my own touch in the collection.
It was your collection with your name on it, but someone else owned the company, is that it?
Not really. we have somebody else, you know, coming in and out, but pretty much it was always me.
It was you.
Yeah.
Well, what did KG 363 mean?
It means kilograms.
Oh,
363.
and 363 is
It's just, you know, 3 is half of 6. It was just a
it was just
nice even number.
When you started it, did you do all the marketing too? Did you do the publicity and the modeling?
I did everything. Yeah, but the line was different back then.
Did you?
And it was, you know, it wasn't what I have today.
No, but it got you started. Did you
Yes.
do fashion shows? I'm just wondering how you learned how to do everything as you came along.
Well, being a model taught me a lot.
Did it?
Because when I was a model, you know, I knew I didn't want to be a model forever, that it was just a step. But I tried to learn as much as I could from that experience. So from fittings and everything, I will see what
That's
the
right.
seamstresses were doing. I was very, you know, was very prepared to get any kind of information that I could, you know.
Were you thinking of your future? Were you thinking?
Yeah.
Oh, you were. at
Yeah,
that
yeah,
time.
yeah.
So when you came to Los Angeles, I don't know how long ago.
It was 6 years ago.
6 years ago. You started a collection called Valerj
Pobega. Yeah.
Pobega. And who saw that? Where did you show it?
Actually, it started really underground because so the KG363 I did since I was in Italy. And then when I came to LA, I was really inspired by the old studio era. You know, Hollywood, but not the modern Hollywood, like
I
the
see.
old
40s?
school 40s, but with my own twist, which is kind of European punk. So it kind of gave me the opportunity to mix these two things together that in Italy I didn't have.
And you call it couture. Why? It's not ready to wear.
It's in between ready to wear and couture. I will call it a demi couture line, a high-end line. Yeah.
And what would it, and why is it so special? And why would it be called couture? What do you do to the clothes or the pieces?
Yeah. Basically, I work on the fabrics every season, either with different dyings.
Like this? Is this
yeah.
a dye?
This is hand-painted, and it has drips of colors all over. Even the back is pretty nice.
And what colors?
It's a special mixture. It colors for fabric, but of course I found my own, you know, thickness to do it because dyings are pretty liquid and.
But the color, does the color change with each season? This is your color.
Pretty much are always dark colors, but and this is another piece. It's like the theme for this collection, which is spring 2010, was rope bondage.
And is this
Yes,
the same one?
This is it. That was always presented on the runway, and so I decided to design like a rope bondage print to go with the collection.
And then you used the face. Did you do the
Yeah.
makeup? Did you design the hair and makeup?
I designed the hair and makeup, but we had, you know, I had professional teams of people doing it.
Which
and,
was rope bondage the same way?
Yeah, the
and
rope bondage, actually, the models were wearing like a bit,
Yes,
like kind
that's
of
what I-
S&M, and it was made of twisted hair.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, and it
That's
was connected to
fantastic.
the hair.
And it was
So,
connected. This piece, if you turn it around a little bit so we
Yeah.
can see it in the camera, is painted the same style as this piece.
Yes,
Tell us a little bit about
yes.
this. Is this on the runway?
It was on the runway, and actually that was the piece that closed my fashion show. And
Instead of a bride?
instead of the bride, I decided to have like a male classical dancer pirouetting his way to the runway. Yeah.
And what kind of fabrics do you use now? Because these fabrics look totally very silky and.
Yeah, my collection is 100% silk.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, I use silks that I repeat, I hand paint, and I try to make different every season. I also have a very interesting fabric. It's a hand coat organza that it looks like vinyl, but
Oh,
it's
is it
still
soft?
silk.
Oh, it's silk? Is it soft?
and light as a feather.
Is that
but
what you're wearing?
No, this is like another piece from the same line, and it's like a deconstruct kimono.
But things aren't finished, and with couture, things are more finished and fine, what?
Yes.
Bindings. And
yes. That's
buttonholes
why.
and things. But you don't have any buttons, right?
No. I don't
But
like
it's all
buttons.
handwork, right?
It's all handwork, and I like that is kind of unfinished. It always was my touch.
But is this
And,
chiffon or silk chiffon?
Yes. Silk,
white
silk
part?
charmeuse and silk chiffon.
And so you just, it looks like you even ravel the ends
Yes.
so that they'll be.
To make it even more hairy
Yeah.
than what is it already.
Well, you talk about that, and you talk about being found, and this painting on the set is by Mattia Biaggi, whom you know.
Yeah, I know him.
You know him very well. Did you marry him?
Yes, actually, yes.
Is there any influence between the two of your work?
Well, let's say that we both have a very dark kind of sense of style. You can tell from his work as well.
And talking about dark, here's another one with the bit, the bondage. And did she go on the runway without any clothes?
Yeah.
And it's behind
Exactly
me?
like this. So it's basically a rope bondage corset. I made
Right
a
here.
corset out of twisted rope, which I learned how to do it. Every collection I challenge myself to learn or to do something
I see.
new and different that I never done before. So it's really
And
experimental.
then how'd you do the breasts?
What do you mean?
They painted? Are they painted or
Oh,
are
no,
they?
no. Those are just those, those
Pasties?
burlesque
Yeah, are they pasties?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they look like they're painted. When you do shows, do you want the public to see certain things? I mean, do you have something in your mind when you do that?
Yeah, you got me.
Tell me what that is.
Yeah, I have a vision, and once I do a show or a presentation or whatever to present the new collection, I want that people get exactly what I have in mind. So this was my picture and how I want it presented, and I mean, it could be kind of risky, you know?
That's what I wondered.
But I rather have it the whole picture than do something to please, or this is how is it. And
so you don't really like color, let's say.
I do, but I like dark or black better.
So when you start with black or white, whatever, you have to find all these different ways to make those pieces interesting.
Exactly, which
So-
is even more challenging.
Yes, it's very challenging. And do you read a lot of books? What inspires you? How do you go out and find these new ways?
Okay, I'm a bookaholic.
Oh, you are? Okay, I found you again.
And I read and I own tons of books on fashion or art, any kind of things that could inspire me.
So it just,
Yeah.
do you drive around LA? Is that an inspiration for you?
I do. I also go to flea markets or to old bookstores.
Yeah, I see.
I have a fascination with the Warhol factory.
Oh,
I
you do?
have, I think, more than 100 books about it.
Is that right?
Yes, because it's really fascinating, the process, how they did create, and I wish, this was today. So that inspires me a lot to go on and challenge myself. And
I wish it were today too, because Andy would love you.
Oh,
he would
my
take you
God.
to every party with him, because I used to go to the parties with him.
Oh, that's
And he would
amazing.
take you and show you off this tall, beautiful redhead. So thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. You made my day.
And thank you for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles. Don't go away, because we're going to be back with actor Yuval David. Hi, it's Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. I'm here with actor Yuval David, who was born and raised in Washington, D.C. He went to Jewish day school And he went to the University of Maryland, where he was a distinguished scholar in the Talent of the Arts program. In between, he spent a lot of time going back and forth to Israel, but he loved traveling to Israel, didn't you? From what I saw, yeah, it was great. So what provoked those trips?
Well, my parents are Israeli, and I'm first-generation American. So my mom especially, she made sure that we always maintained close ties to the family.
Did you speak Hebrew in your family?
Yeah. So I grew up with Hebrew in the home, but really I speak 5 languages, but Hebrew was the main language in the house, and English, of course, as a little kid at school and amongst my friends. So my brother and I, my older brother, when we were very young, we always thought that we were some sort of, I guess, diplomats or something, because all of my parents' friends spoke Hebrew, and all of our friends spoke English. So we thought that Hebrew was the language of children, and that English was the language of children, and Hebrew was the language of adults. But we knew both languages. Unfortunately, we realized we thought we were spies. I'm not even kidding. But then, it was quite the disappointment when we found out that
besides
we weren't.
Finding out you were a spy, understanding Hebrew, what did you learn on those trips to Israel? They were different from America being
well,
there.
it's those trips ended up being more of going home, So my roots lie on both sides of the sea, as they say.
That's right.
And, my family's there, my grandparents are there. I'd spend 3 months every summer and a month and a half every winter in Israel. So really, it was less of a vacation other than not being in school.
You didn't do kibbutz or anything?
Actually, when I went to the private Jewish day school in Washington, D.C., and in 12th grade, senior year, we actually had half a year of studies, and the other half of the year was traveling in Poland, the Czech Republic, and in Israel. And then afterwards, I did volunteer on a kibbutz.
Did you? For how long?
Maybe 3 months.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it was cool. I just figured I wanted to do something else. Did they break me down? I think coming from an Israeli family, either it's tough to break down or we're all already broken down.
You think so? When you go into that situation?
It was, the kibbutz was, I was just working on a kibbutz. And my mom and her older sister were born on a kibbutz. And my grandparents, when they after surviving the Holocaust and went to Israel, they lived on a kibbutz for a while. But ultimately, they left the kibbutz and lived in a major city.
Because we're talking about your family. Your mom or your family was kind of showbiz related, right?
Not even kind of. My mom is. I'm a very proud mama's boy, I guess. My mom is an incredible dancer, Ziva Cohen. She's a dancer, choreographer, and.
Did she dance in a company?
She has her own company. She's danced in numerous companies and choreographed for multiple companies. So growing up, she would take my brother and I to the shows, to the rehearsals, at all these different theaters. So we were exposed at a young age to the performing arts world, and she was in residence at the Kennedy Center in D.C. for a long time.
She was. So that's why your scholarship in the performing arts and studying performing arts came naturally to you. I mean, you were a part of it.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, when I was 5, I remember my first theater experiences. My parents always took my brother and I to see theater, and of course we saw dance shows with her and music concerts and all of these different cultural events. But I knew at a young age that I was going to be an actor, and started acting professionally at a young age in theater.
That's what I wondered. You always knew you were going to act then.
Right. Yeah.
And you always did. Did she put you in any of her productions?
I used to dance in her shows, in her company's performances.
Were they ethnic dances?
Flamenco, yeah.
Oh, flamenco?
Yeah. She has a very well-known Spanish dance company. I don't know if I neglected to say that. But so it was great. So I got into that, but ultimately it was distracting me from acting, since dance is just something I enjoy, but it's not something I wanted to do with my life. So
you didn't want to be a professional dancer at that point? Choreographer, you would have been another Baryshnikov.
That's why there was a bit of an uproar when I stopped dancing. People were calling me saying, "Do you know who your mother is? How could you not continue the legacy?" I was like, "But I don't want to follow in her footsteps," literally and figuratively, I guess. But But dance is something I've always maintained, and as an actor, it's definitely colored everything I do in that it gives me a physical vocabulary I can use when creating characters. And I've been very fortunate in my career to play a wide array of totally different characters.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that because of that background, but also you have a lot of character voices and accents.
Yeah.
Where'd you get those?
Well, I think growing up with 5 languages already fine-tuned my ear and the ability to morph my voice into different accents and character voices. And most of my work is actually playing foreign characters. I rarely play Americans. I'd love to. I want to play more Americans.
What kind of characters do you play?
French. The past year, I played a Frenchman, a German, a Londoner, an Irishman, an Israeli.
When you go to audition, do you audition in those accents?
Oh, absolutely. Because, if I'm coming in with a voice, they want to hear that. And there have been times that for my voiceovers,
I was just going to ask about
auditions,
voiceover. Do you do voiceovers?
Yeah. Which I love. I absolutely love doing voiceovers. I was doing voiceovers today, and when we're done, I actually have to head back to the studio.
And what kind of voices?
I was doing an Irish dialect today. So for about 5 hours before I came here, I was talking like this the whole time. But so it's just that's what I do. But for the voiceover auditions, they don't see me, and they just get the tape. Now, many of the producers already know me, and fortunately, call me back for future work. But, when they just hear the voiceover tape, they hear a voice. So it doesn't matter.
They see something else. You see an Irishman, whatever kind of thing they want to see, right?
I was just doing a whole voiceover in an Egyptian accent.
How do you do that?
It was sort of like this. It was for the National Geographic, and the voice was to be echoed. It was about the pyramids, and I was doing the voice, and they wanted it sort of like this, and I got the job, but they did not know until they hired me that I am not Egyptian.
So then they found out that I wasn't Egyptian. They're like, "What? How do you do that?" And I was like, "Well, that's what I do."
Is Israeli easy for you?
Israeli is very easy for me. Just I know they say for. The one good thing about being in the Middle East is that you never have throat infections because of all the in Hebrew and Arabic,
That's right.
It's terrible. I think that's really the reason why there isn't peace in the Middle East, is because they all get together and they're just and spitting all the time. They can't get a word in edgewise. They're just showering each other with spit.
That's great. You still travel now. You travel you live in LA and New York.
I do.
And do you do theater there?
I have been doing a bunch of workshops. I miss theater a lot.
You like to do that?
Yeah, that's probably the most fun for me. Just, interacting with a live audience and letting it change and letting the characters develop as we're up there on stage. So there is a magic to that. I love film and television. But
you get that feedback. You're also
you get the feedback, and it's different all the time. So you get to really play around with your character much more than you do in film or television.
Where else did you take acting lessons?
Oh gosh.
Did you work with a lot of teachers?
Yeah. When I started acting at a very young age, and a lot of my first experiences were at places like Arena Stage or the Shakespeare Theater and Studio Theater. So at first, most of my acting training was by actually acting and being around these incredible actors who were 30, 40, 50, 60 years my senior, and watching and learning from them. And then I would get coached by some of them after the show ended, because I was like, I want to learn how to act like you. And
well, that's very flattering, isn't it?
Yeah, and many of my acting coaches were actors who also did coaching on the side. But then, of course, with the Stanislavski Theater Studio, with the Actors Studio programs through.
Did you do programs with all of those?
Yeah. I mean, constantly. I think training is a very important thing.
Do you continue that now?
Always. Now I work mostly with private coaches.
Oh, you do?
Just
when you do TV, like you're doing a daytime, what are you doing now?
Well, I'm now on hiatus from Days of Our Lives.
And
which
how
was-
is that? Because you have to learn all those lines in the evening, right? Before you go to work?
I think, yeah, but I have all kinds of tricks to memorize, you know, these lines, which
Do you learn
I think
that
comes
in
from a
acting
theater
school?
background.
Yeah, that's what I wondered.
Oh, absolutely. We had acting classes where different teachers would teach us their various tactics or strategies to memorize
And
things.
then
And
you-
I incorporated it and embodied whatever worked for me and developed my own style. But yeah, you know, there are many times that I have to memorize a script from the day before.
Yeah. And you have your tricks to do that.
I do have my tricks.
I met you long ago, well, not long ago, but with Melora Hardin, who
Yeah.
directed and acted in her independent movie, You.
Yes.
And what kind of role did you play in? You play in that.
In what role did I play in You? I know, I was always laughing at them because when it comes out to the theaters, people will say, "Oh, I saw You last night." But where did you see me? No, I saw You, the film. Anyway, I played the guy. He's French. He's an artist.
He's French, that's what
Of
I
course.
thought.
You know, what was funny about this is that for the audition process, this was maybe a week after I first came to Los Angeles to discover what Los Angeles is. So I get this call from a casting director who knows me, and she's like, "Yuval, there's this role. It's so perfect for you. And I know you do all these accents. Can you do French?" I was like, "But of course I can do French. What kind of question is this if I can do French, you know?" And so she said, "Just come and stick with the French accent the entire time for
Just
the
pretend
audition
like
process."
you're French?
I walked in, they had all these French people from France who
You're
were there,
kidding.
and me, and they're all talking to each other and speaking in French very, very quickly. And my French is
You
know,
do
it's
speak a
okay.
little French,
I speak a little
aside from
French.
your accent.
Right. So they wouldn't try to talk to me too much to figure out that I'm not French. And of course, going there at the audition with all the casting assistants, you know, I'd go up to these young girls and they're like, you know, "Hello, my name's Yuval David," and they would swoon to hear the accent. Long story short, after multiple callbacks, I ended up getting cast in the
Yeah.
film. And I got a call from the casting director saying they loved you, they think you're the best actor, blah, 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 great compliments. And, you know, they want you. And I said, "Do they know that I'm not French?"
That's what I was
And she's like, "Well, I haven't told them yet."
Oh,
and I was
please.
like, "Oh, gosh." And I was like, darn, they're going to find out I'm not French, and that's it. I'm not going to get the role.
Right.
But she calls me back, Angela Campola-Sanders, the casting director, calls me back maybe 5 minutes later, and she said Melora and Gildart thought it was great.
Melora loved
and they
you
loved it.
because we talked about that role, and Gildart, her husband, was one of the producers, right?
Yeah,
was
well,
in
he
it too.
wrote, he was in it too. He
Yeah.
acted, wrote it, and was one of the
He
producers.
did everything. Yeah, it
They're
was
great. They're an incredible couple,
Yeah.
Melora and Gildart.
The other thing was the awakening of Spring Roll.
Wow, yeah.
Tell us that.
That was an intense project. It was directed by Arthur Allen Seidelman, who is an incredible director of theater, of film, and it was at a time for me. It came at a very good time for me because I was really missing doing theater, and that theater bug was just not.
And he
not quenched.
raved about your performance because I read some of the reviews, and
Wow.
the director was raving about you rather than the critic too.
Well,
you know,
well,
it was
that's
a collaboration.
flattering. Yeah, it was an incredible project to work on, and he's an actor's director, and it felt like we were doing theater. We had a very short amount of time of rehearsals before we started shooting, but it's the script on which the Broadway musical Spring Awakening is based.
It was.
So, you know, this also came out at a good time because all of the fans of Spring Awakening turned to the Awakening of Spring to check it out. But it was a very, very intense production, and, you know, the script itself is deep and hard and challenging.
It's very interesting. Is it interesting where you might? There's so many layers involved.
Multiple layers. You know, it deals with the awakening of youth, a spring
know.
awakening
I
of
know.
all these, you know,
It is good.
young kids.
The play was fantastic too. I loved it. It was
yeah.
great. Well, I can't let you talk about food. I can't let you talk about your Holocaust lectures that
gosh.
you go out on.
Yeah,
Because
I'm going to
you
be
have-
in Berlin for the 65th anniversary of the liberation of the camps. They invited me to come. I spoke at the 60th anniversary.
I know you're a great spokesman, so you'll have to come back and we'll talk about all those things another
Absolutely.
time.
Too bad we can't talk about food. These lemons.
Yes, I
are
know
like,
you love lemons. You love food. Yuval.
Oh my
next
God,
time.
these are great.
They're real.
They look fake, but they're actually real.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Keep writing to 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, and email me at jaquinn1@aol.com. Bye.